I don't think I ever would have turned out to be the kind of drummer who could like, you know, fucking play in the stadium rock band and do that, in a very accomplished way. But uh, it was clear Bloc Party were never going to be in that kind of band anyway, so it didn't seem to matter. Like we came up through playing pubs and then kind of very small, sweaty indie venues, and it felt to me that the natural thing to do was just to like really follow instinct and not really overthink things too much. When I did begin to think or overthink things, that's really when I felt like my playing began to suffer, and that came a little bit later on. But yeah, but at the time, yeah, there's definitely a few times where, like in the past, where like Russell has like teased me after the games, been like, "Yeah, that bar wasn't in like 7/12, Matt. What were you doing?" Like, I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm sorry.
I suppose that answers another question from Jimmy Curtis, who says, "Were you aware at the time how unique your drumming was for a band of that scene, and how integral it was to Block Party's overall sound?"
Um, I was aware insofar as like I was consciously not trying to do whatever else what anyone else in that scene was trying to do, but in terms of what I don't know, I try not to think about it too much because I could as I said earlier, like I was really aware of my limitations and like I knew the minute I started believing the hype or whatever, like there'd be someone waiting to sort of totally take me down a bunch of pegs, and like remind me of who I was and where I came from. And so yeah, I mean, like there was a moment I think we were driving up to Middlesbrough, and Simon White, who was one of our managers at the time, jumped in the van with a compilation of all the demos that we'd recorded up to that point, and we were in the planning stage then for recording Silent Alarm. We were trying to figure out what would make the final cut, and we listened to all of those songs in a row on the way up to the gig, and I was kind of squirming in the back of the van because all I could hear was drums, and I was thinking to myself, "What the fuck have I done? Like, I've just turned this whole record into a drum solo. Like, everyone else is going to hate me so much." And part of me was like, "Wow, that's cool. That's cool. I did all of that stuff," but then I was also like, "Yeah, I hope people realize there are still songs in here." And I'm sure at some point someone's going to tell me to fuck off and actually just play everything like in a much more much more constrained manner, but that didn't happen. But yeah, I guess I had this maximalist approach that uh, was actually kind of helpful when we were recording Silent Alarm because Paul Epworth like really helped preen it away and like really turn it into something a lot more compact and like something that made sense to the listener. Even like I'm sure there's some people listen to that now and think fucking hell the drums are really annoying, but um, through like the 4 very intense days of arguing and going back and forth with Paul and like just like pushing and pulling the parts all over the place and breaking them down and putting them back together again, we had something that made sense, and I was so grateful for having gone through that process and actually having this mirror to what I was personally doing that wasn't the band. And I think Paul was so integral not only to how the drums came out but how the rest of that record turned out. We couldn't have made that record without him, but um, I was more aware of the drumming insofar as like a lot there was a lot of pushback, let's just say, and a lot of people were like, yeah, that's too much, like too much, you can't do it like that. But I guess sometimes it's just good to throw a lot of shit at the wall and see what sticks. And if you've got more to work with, then you at least have like a lot of material, right?
No, it's brilliant from my point of view, and I think a lot of people. Yeah, yeah. So recording the first album, was that something? It sounds quite intense, but did you enjoy it?
It was intense. There were definitely moments where we didn't know where it was heading, and like obviously you're doing your first record, you don't know if you're going to get to a second one. Like, we were all very aware of the machinations of the music industry by that point, and we just didn't know. Like, we didn't know what was going to happen after we made Silent Alarm. We didn't know if like uh, something catastrophic would happen internally, or if the whole thing just didn't take off at all. If it just would meet with you know meet with complete indifference. So you kind of just you're trying to get everything down. You're trying to service everything as best as you can because you don't know if you're going to have another chance to make any kind of creative statement whatsoever. And that was something that definitely informed my experience of making the record. And I just wanted it to, I wanted to personally state my case, and I wanted everyone else to as well on that record, and for us to do the best job. So that kind of pressure like made it a little bit difficult at times, but I still think about the month we spent in Copenhagen doing most of the tracking for the record, and it was one of the best months of my life. It really was. I'm very fond of that time, and I'm so deeply grateful to have had that experience. It was so cool. Like, first off, we're living away from home for the first time in our lives, which was really cool in a really wonderful city, with really cool people, and we're also making a record with Paul. He's this, crackpot genius, like a complete fountain of ideas, and yeah, being within that process, but then also being like kind of having a window to it as well was just so cool, and that's something that will always live with me. And I, amidst all the uncertainty and like how difficult making some parts of that record was, like it was a thoroughly enriching experience, and overall I enjoyed it immensely. It was so much fun. I mean, it didn't hurt that I was done after 4 days as well, so I was just in I was in the club for the rest of it.
Excellent. And then obviously when it starts getting the reviews and ends up being like NME's best album of 2005, is that quite a satisfying feeling, or at that time you're kind of like in the whirlwind of it all?
It was a bit unnerving, and I think there was also some controversy because I think I it's my understanding actually that Arcade Fire was going to be awarded Album of the Year, and at the last minute that decision was pulled. I think someone on editorial like changed it, and I think maybe wanted a British band to be Album of the Year or something. But we don't know what. I actually don't know what happened, but like I understand that was how that was meant to play out. So like, and there were just definitely some rumblings of discontent. Around the band, I think a few people were annoyed that had actually happened, and yeah, that kind of soured the whatever idea of achievement that could have possibly have been for me. And yeah, it was nice to have the plaudits and to have the attention and to be somewhat acclaimed at the time, but I was kind of like, yeah, we just we're just the band at the end of the day. We've got to go back and do this again now. So who cares if like we're out in the year or whatever? We already did everything we set out to do this year.